Okay, so I'm here to rate the season 4 finale of Invincible, and well, as I predicted, I actually don't remember when I predicted it on this channel, but I predicted it outside of it. This episode will be blown out of proportion how good it is after it's gonna be just average for Invincible standards. Actually, that's not true. I think it's above average, but I don't think this episode's perfect, not by a mile. I think people saying it's a masterful finale, like it's the perfect finale, perfect epilogue. Which also one thing I'm getting right into it. No spoiler review. I'm just gonna try and do this first part to say how I think people overrate it. And I'm not gonna start getting ranting into the Invincible War. Luckily, IMDb doesn't overrate it. Just people on the internet do, which is arguably worse. But anyways, one of the biggest things I hear whenever someone criticizes this episode is an Invincible fan when they don't see fighting. This episode sucks. Like, yes, if you don't like this episode because there's no fighting, yeah, that's a bad critique. But that's, of anyone who has critiqued this episode online, I have not seen a single critique. I've not seen a single critique that it's because there wasn't enough fighting. This episode has good enough writing to hold it up. And we just got like 3 episodes where 90% of it's action. Like, we're good. Like, no, I have not seen that critique anywhere online. I'm gonna be so honest. From what I've seen, although mainly I'm on YouTube. I'm not on, guys, I'm not going on Twitter. But, like, I think is a stupid critique. But yeah. Yeah, I really hate that critique, honestly. I think it's such a pathetic argument where it's like people are like, oh, you just don't like because there's no fight. No. You just, and also I have not seen a single person be like, yeah, this episode sucks. I've seen people be like, yeah, this episode's like an 8 out of 10, but it's definitely the worst finale in the show, which I agree. It's the worst finale in this show. Anyways, I'm gonna get into it real quick. Okay, so what do I not like about this episode? I want to start there. First of all, I know people are gonna hate me for this, and it's more realistic for the PTSD scenes, but I got sick of the PTSD scenes real quick. And I know they probably did that because you're supposed to not like PTSD, but like genuinely, it just was not good. The opening scene where Mark thought the Viltrumites destroyed Earth, that was a great scene. That was a great scene. Not a fantastic cold open, but it was a great scene. Also, one thing I would like to say, people are already glazing this episode's animation. Be like, it has fantastic animation. Did we watch the same episode? The animation is maybe above average sometimes for Invincible standards, but it's not a good looking episode. I mean, it's above average from just pretty darn bad, and it's just But like, I can't really recall a single moment where people are like, where I'm like, the animation's good. People have already been like, oh, the animation, the thread conversation was good. No, they just added a little bit of lighting. That's it. And it's not even like a clever form of lighting. They just made a shadow. That's it. Anyways, sorry about that. Back to my critique about the PTSD scenes. There's so many of them, and each one gets progressively more useless. This is also partly because I read I know about the comics, and that Thrag doesn't kill any of these guys. He shows up at, not even then, in the comics he shows up at the beginning, which I think is a better decision. To have all of this in one scene, maybe just quicker scenes, would have worked so much better than cutting off genuinely good scenes to just ruin them, to reinstate your point that's been established 3 times ago. You don't need to have 5 different scenes of the same thing happening in different scenarios when you've already had 4 of those scenarios. This is like your 5th. And the entire episode is an underlying message of that. Of Mark's worry that the Viltrumites are here. So we don't need this many scenes. It is useless. Anyways, that is just my biggest critique. Actually, no, that's not my biggest critique. I have a problem with something else, but I'm going to get that in a second. I think the comics just handle it better. Just get them all done at once. Therefore, you don't cut off actual good scenes, and you don't, Anyway, yeah, you don't cut off, good scenes, and you don't just add what becomes nothing. All of these scenes happening at once, except for maybe the college scene. I think that scene should have been completely deleted from the episode. I mean, there's, yeah. Other than that, add it all at once, you get the same dread, you get the same PTSD. I felt it the same, in the comics, I felt it the exact same. I don't care about the fact that there's more. Sometimes less is more. We could have just had one bigger scene that does all of this in once, like the comics. I'm not someone who's like, oh, it's not the comics, it's terrible. No, that's a stupid criticism. But when the comics has something better, you can definitely be like, yeah, they should have just done that. And you can still critique what they did. I'm sorry, I did not like how they handled these PTSD scenes. And one thing I also just really, really grinded my gears was how Paul and Debbie broke up off screen. And I just find that really, really dumb. I don't like the fact that they just hand waved it away by saying, oh, we live in different worlds. This could never worked out. I'm sorry? You've been doing this for your entire relationship. And now it's not working out? I don't get it. Which, actually, that's probably a bad criticism. But there's more to it that I just don't like what happened with Paul and Debbie. They had a good relationship. They were good characters. They worked together well. And you may say, well, sometimes good relationships don't work out. You're right. But I just don't like the fact that they hand-waved it away and it happened off-screen. It made you say, well, it helps with the idea that the characters don't just stay stagnant for the 8 months. Which, by the way, Debbie was like, oh, you've been gone for 10 months. Oh, how? Like, where are we getting 10 months from? The travel to Celestia was supposed to be 2 weeks. Then Mark got in a coma for 2 months. So then let's imply a week had gone by about that time. So a week longer than Celestia. Then they went to Viltrum. So let's just say 2 more weeks. And then the next day, Mark was out for 4 weeks. Let's say that. Then they came immediately home. That's, again, like in our 2 weeks. How are we getting 10 months? Anyways, that's a nitpick. But anyways, I just don't really like what they did with Debbie and Paul. I think it was a bad decision that just could have been done much better. But, okay. Let's get into parts of the episode that I like. I think Eve and Mark and everything there, this episode was pretty great. I thought it worked quite well. The Thrag scene at the end was pretty amazing. I think it was a great way to end the season. As well as Alan. Wait, I have another critique with Alan. Okay, as well as Alan's final scene. Although I do think the rest of the scenes in this episode were not the best. They were okay. They just weren't the greatest. But here's my critique for Alan. Not now, but it's a skepticism for later. So Alan becomes like a lot more serious and a lot more, if anything, villainous down the line in the comics. I mean, like, spoilers, skip like 30 seconds if you don't want to hear about this. But Alan is gonna deploy this, oh wait, it's in the final thing of the scene. Alan, with no remorse, is gonna do the Scourge virus. He's like, I don't care if all the humans die, we need to get rid of the Viltrumites. He also later in the comics, he basically kills Oliver. Like, he is more serious even between those moments. But here, he's just, like, I don't get why Seth Rogen is there? It's a good chunk better than Seth Rogen being the Joseph Stalin stand-in, but it's still not good casting. Anything beyond season 4, I would say. Like, I think he's been great up till now. I just think he's gonna drop the ball with these more serious scenes, unless if Seth Rogen can do something. But hey, I don't know. Anyways, this episode I actually think is really great. I give it like an 8.9. I do really like it. My biggest, if I just spent all the time talking about the problems, I just don't know what to say beyond it. Like, oh, there's some good stuff between Debbie and Omni-Man, although I didn't like some parts about it, like Debbie and Paul just being like backhanded away because you need to get with Omni-Man, even though I think it would have been better for Debbie's character in the show to not be with Omni-Man. Which, yes, she's gonna get with Nolan, okay? I'm fine with that. Actually, no, I'm not really fine with that. With this person's character, I feel like she would never get back with Nolan. And it doesn't make sense. Why would she... I'm sorry. I'm trying to be positive. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, unless I'm doing my Daredevil Born Again to this, yeah, Invincible's not winning. I'm gonna be so honest. Unless Daredevil Born Again just drops the ball and gives us like two 7 out of 10 episodes. Honestly, even that. Actually, that would probably make it just a bit lower than this season. But honestly, let's be honest, that's not happening. I think those 2 episodes could be utterly perfect. Could be absolutely perfect, if they're done right. And yeah, like, I don't think Invincible has a chance now. Anyways, suspect more Invincible content. Maybe like 2 or 3 videos in the future of me just rating Invincible seasons and their episodes in this season's episodes. Just expect that. And, well, I'm bye. I'm bye? No, I'm gonna go by. I'm gonna go. Okay. Well, bye.